Previously on Resident Evil Revelations.
This is the T-Bit virus. It will infect one-fifth of the Earth's waters.
Now they want to use the virus to stage another attack.
There are some learned objectives.
Seek the truth about Terra Gricia.
Very ambitiously trying to cover 11 different drug classes in the next 30 minutes. And we're going to start off with ALK inhibitors. So,
17's about the 1 o'clock airport.
Look for something linked to this ship.
tissue during embryogenesis. It can be very important in that development, and it does kind of decrease a little bit as patients go through adulthood. It's not as abundantly expressed then. It's just really seen in rare neural tissues, but it is important for the development of the nervous system with regards to cell differentiation, proliferation, and survival. The most common mutations that we see in ALK are going to be chromosomal rearrangements, and that will lead to fusion oncogenes. And when we give ALK inhibitors, we're inhibiting that fusion oncogene and then shutting off this signaling cascade. There are currently 5 FDA-approved ALK inhibitors. They're all...
أختك
It's okay. I made it.
Nothing works.
There are no keys here.
Oh, shit. My guess is we have to start them both simultaneously.
And we really need that key.
Jill, everything's shot to hell in here. I'll try some repairs and radio if it goes well. Nothing works.
Repairs are complete. Meet me in the engine room.
I'm ready to restart this baby. Get in position. There. Good as new. What the?
What happened? running out of time.
Damn it. Gee, it's not stopping.
Inhibitors. They're all oral flat dosing. I have included some off-target effects because some of these are clinically relevant, and some of them are also important to understand why certain side effects occur within the class and why some ALK inhibitors have some side effects compared to the others. And there are some unique or notable adverse drug events here. So with crizotinib, we can see low testosterone. So if you have a young male patient, he's complaining of excess fatigue, it might be worth checking a testosterone. And it also causes more cytopenias compared to the other ALK inhibitors. Suritinib can cause pancreatitis or increased serum glucose because it also affects the insulin receptor. Alectinib and brigatinib can both cause serious arthralgias or myalgias, and there are some case reports of rhabdomyolysis. So it is important upon initiation to be checking CPKs. Brigatinib can also cause hypertension, and among the ALK inhibitors, it has the highest incidence of pneumonitis, which is why we have this 90 milligram 7-day lead-in before we go up to the 180 milligram normal dosing. And it is important too, if patients have the window, to have a few days off of ALK therapy before they start brigatinib, because if you've been on an ALK inhibitor without a washout period, the increase for pneumonitis is a little bit higher for that. And lorlatinib is the newest ALK inhibitor on the block, and for that, the unique toxicities would be dyslipidemia, which occurs in over 95% of patients to some degree. So it is really important to be monitoring lipid panels, and it can also cause CNS effects in up to a third of patients. And that can include things like mood changes, including suicidal ideation, sleep disturbances, depression. So it can have some serious CNS toxicities that are important to discuss with patients. And of course, with oral targeted therapies, we're also always worried about drug-drug interactions. All of these drugs are CYP3A4 substrate, so there are the potential for clinically serious drug interactions, so we should be thoroughly checking. In terms of baseline organ dysfunction and dose adjustments, crizotinib and brigatinib do need to be dose adjusted for renal impairment. The others haven't really been well studied in serious renal impairment, and they all need to be dose adjusted in hepatic impairment. And lorlatinib, likely because it's the newest drug, doesn't have as much data for serious liver impairment, so is something to be cognizant of when prescribing these drugs. There's also many class effects with these drugs. Constipation, diarrhea, and nausea and vomiting are going to be more common with crizotinib and suritinib. Bradycardia is a class effect. It's generally asymptomatic. Fatigue can happen with any of these drugs. I mentioned before that pneumonitis is a class effect, and it is most common, again, with brigatinib. And about 30% of patients on that drug will also have some dyspnea, but true pneumonitis is about 9%. QT prolongation can occur with crizotinib and suritinib as well. It is recommended to have a baseline EKG, and for lorlatinib, it's also recommended to have a baseline EKG, not because of QT prolongation, but because about 1% of patients will actually have AV block. Transaminitis is also very common, as you can see in this chart, but true hepatotoxicity is quite rare. It's generally just transaminitis. Edema can occur, some neuropathy, and visual changes can occur with all of these drugs. It's far more common, over 90% with crizotinib, and it can be very disturbing to patients. So this typically has an onset of a few days after patients initiate therapy. Generally, it resolves within a few weeks without any intervention being necessary, but patients may start to see floaters, and they may have more trouble with accommodation, particularly with light changes. So I usually counsel them not to drive if it's going to be like the sun setting, or like if they've been driving overnight and the sun's